morning, everyone. Happy Saturday.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
And again, we
Happy
have
weekend.
new people with joining us. Woohoo!
Yay! Finally, we have our guest.
We have a
our member
special
of the week.
member of the week, Judy. Hi there, Judy. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent. Yes. Judy was so excited she joined us 2 hours earlier and was waiting for us to kick you into gear. And we have Sandy back again. Sandy.
Yes, get well wishes to Betsy. Betsy has this thing that's going around.
This bug.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
So thank you for standing in. We're hoping that Betsy will be all healthy and ready to rejoin us again next week. But we love having you here, Sandy. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's great. And great to see everyone who's here live in the chat with us. And also greetings to those who join us after the fact and watch us on demand later. But so Vic Thor wins the, we haven't seen Vic in a while. And of course, he started off with Happy Time Zone, and he's been here since 9:22. Great to see you, Vic. Vic Thor. D as well from Augusta, Georgia. Apparently Vic is in St. Louis, Missouri, was over in Kansas City. Now, is that Kansas City, Missouri or Kansas City, Kansas? There's two different Kansas cities, isn't there?
Yes.
So, which confused me as a Canadian because I'm thinking Kansas City obviously has to be in Kansas. Why would you have a Kansas City in a place not Kansas?
Anywhere else.
I don't understand. So maybe someone can explain why there's a Kansas City in a different state. Amanda, all the way from Melbourne, where now the last time I was on a live cast, it was frigidly cold here. Today it's only it was only minus 17 on our morning walk. And she was having a heat wave. Are you having a heat wave in Chile, Vicky?
Yes, actually, it's supposed to be today the hottest day of summer.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah,
and we've just come from the pretty much our coldest day of winter. So that's
imagine. Yeah.
Who else is joining us? Brian Nash, how you doing there, Brian? And Fiordalisi, Lisa Gervais, hello, early birds. And Judy Stutz is here. Hey there, Judy. John Tyner from Ireland, how you doing? Audrey Martin, good to see you, Audrey. And people were like, this chat is huge. People were chatting along, well before we joined in. Ozzy is here as well. Yoke is here from the Netherlands. Margaret Tull, how you doing, Margaret? Murray Maloney from a snowy Collingwood. We got over a foot of snow yesterday where I am. I'm sure, Murray, you probably got lots of snow as well. Tamara is here. Patricia Jackson from Kentucky. Rainy and dreary. Yeah, no rain in our forecast. Veg Beauty, who is Tia, right?
Tia.
Is here. Let's see, who else have I to do? Susie Carta, Mary Sleppy. How you doing, Mary? How you doing, Susie? Klaus Janssen? I'm not sure if it's Janssen or Janssen. Maybe you can let me know. And hopefully I'll remember it next time. Tango Yuli from Mechanicsburg. I've never seen that name before.
Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, yeah.
Yes.
Mechanicsburg. Very cool. Dr. Shelley Viola Murphy is here. Also, David Dodd, Kirsten Hart. Wow, there's Doris Lanier. There's more people here than are normally.
Yeah.
Holly. Wow. Doug McCown, Chris Wine, Cousin Craig. Yes, that's right. Mohavlin, how are you doing? Mark Lehman. Gail Martin is here. And I think I got everyone. Wow, that's a huge list of people joining us.
Yeah, new names. Did you say hi to Chris Felayolo? Hi, Chris. I didn't hear you mention him.
Oh, Collingwood, Ontario. Yes, it's Collingwood, Ontario in Canada. Not if you're talking about Murray, that's not Collingwood, Australia. So, surprise, D. Wow. So lots of people here. That's great because we've got lots of things to share in this Saturday's roundup. And Vicky, why don't you take it away with our special guest?
Yes, our special guest is Judy Bramlett. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, Bramlett.
Oh, thank you. Well, Judy, you were with us in during Secret Santa too.
Yes,
You were one of the wishers or the wishes as we call them, and
both.
Tia made your dream come true, right?
Yes.
Great. So we're going to. I will share my screen.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Well, I know we have Judy live, but I want you to see that this was posted. She's our member of the week, and you can check this interview, and you'll see some. Well, this picture is from Rootstick, Judy.
Yes.
Is it? Oh, okay. And you were talking with us. You're really close to the Rootstick Center, right? You
Yes.
live in Utah.
Yeah, just
Great.
5 blocks.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's convenient.
Oh, that's
Very handy.
awesome. Yeah.
We'll see
So-
you in March. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I only dream about being there, but I will someday with you. You have Judy. Please share. You have the funniest stories about how you became interested in genealogy, and the first one is related to your mother-in-law, your second mother-in-law. What can you tell us about that?
Well, she was in DAR and she was holding it over me with her nose up in the air. And that didn't go over real well. So I asked my mother what we could do. And she said, well, my cousins are in it. So yes, we can get in. So we went through the lineage, and sure enough, there were 4 lines that went back to DAR.
Great.
But I only
So
told
you-
her about one.
So she really promoted that you went and researched. So that
Yeah,
made
that
you
was one of
interested
them.
in your family history.
Yes, that was one
Yes.
of the things. The other was a situation that occurred with the NGS where they were going to be photographing all their records. So a friend of mine was wanting to get in and make copies before they photographed them. So we 2 of us went out at night and Xerox all their records and alphabetized them, which they hadn't been before. So, and then so we had that was done. And then of course I had access to the library while I was doing it. That was fun.
Great. So you kind of sneaked into the library when...
Oh no, we weren't sneaking. We were given a key.
but you were there where you did it like behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Because it was between 8 at night and 4 and 6 in the morning.
Whoa. Wow.
So
that's
we
awesome.
weren't bothering any of them.
Wow. Well, fun story.
Yes. It was interesting.
Yes. So, and what is your relation with the Rowley name? You started a one name study about it.
I inherited it. 2
Mm-hmm.
men. I contacted the man who was doing it, and he was getting elderly and knew he wasn't be able to do it much longer. So he wanted someone to pass it to.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked me into taking it. And another man did the same thing. And so I inherited both their studies.
Wow.
And so I got the Rowley records, the website,
Mm-hmm.
the database, the whole mess. And I had 46 cartons, which I ultimately sent up to NGS because I couldn't, once I got to the point where I wasn't going to be able to keep doing it, I had to pass it on to someone. So I passed it on to New England Historical Society for their archives.
Mhm. Wow.
You know, one name studies, one place studies, unless it's a ghost town, they'll never be done, right?
No, right.
Mhm.
But I wanted the records to be kept.
You know,
And meanwhile, the database is on the One Name Studies Society's website.
Mhm. Okay. And Judy, you've been on WikiTree for 6 years, or what can you tell us about?
2018.
we were
Yes.
talking about sons beforehand. That was the son's dog. There you go. Sorry about that, Judy.
That's right.
So from 2018, right?
Yes.
And you've been really involved in the Alabama U.S. Black Heritage and the Civil War project, right?
Right. Both of them.
Mm-hmm. And what is your interested? Why are you interested in those projects? What is your connection to them?
Well, I happened to be living in Alabama at the time that I took over, that I went into the Alabama project. But the Civil War project, I decided that I should do something militarily every military holiday.
Oh, that's a good
So
idea.
that's why I started on the Civil War project. And every military holiday, I work on that. Usually on one of the cemeteries,
Mhm.
if not on one of the linkages to the Civil War soldiers, linking them back to the tree.
That's a great way to celebrate those holidays.
Yes.
And
Excellent.
a big shout out to the PL of the Civil War, Pam. She does the most fantastic monthly challenges to help us with that. Doesn't
Yes.
she, Judy? She is really she comes up with creative ways. She will reach out to the photographers that have done the tombstones, photograph the tombstones, ask if we can use it in mass as a group. You know, when we do the cemeteries, she just is really awesome. I love Pam. So I agree with Judy. I never thought about doing that. That's a great idea.
And it really is nice to work with her. She sets it
Mhm.
up so nicely that it's easy to work with her.
I agree.
Mhm. And Judy, it seems to me, for what I read in your interview, that you schedule your day or your week about I mean, whatever you do on WikiTree, do you schedule it?
Oh no.
Oh,
I have doctor's visits, I have an art class, and I have
you,
Red
yeah.
Hatters things. Those are scheduled. Everything else
Okay.
is WikiTree.
Wait. You have a real life outside of WikiTree?
Crazy
Yes.
enough.
That's great. And you're very active.
Yes,
I
I
saw
am.
you're a part of a group that's called the Red Hat
Red
Ladies.
Hat Society.
Red Hat Society.
Oh, the red hats.
And that is fun. The
Yeah.
goal
Yes.
is the group is to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Nice. So that must be an international society, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Because I've played for a funeral, and from the choir, every now and then, a member of the Red Hat, the funeral's for someone from the Red Hat, and all of a sudden you see a sea of red hats down in the congregation below.
Yes.
It's
That's
amazing.
Isn't that awesome? Instead of the doom and gloom, they're coming.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice. And I
Great.
knew when I left my Pensacola group that I would find one in Salt Lake City, and I did.
Nice.
Mhm.
And
So
how
I
many
knew-
red hats have you converted to WikiTree?
None.
Oh,
Oh,
Some of them were already genealogists, but most of them are quite elderly and have already done their work.
Mm.
mhm.
Now, is there a category for Red Hat Society?
I was just
on
thinking
WikiTree?
that a category and a sticker.
I bet Judy knows.
No, there isn't.
But there should be.
Oh, we got to remedy
Yeah.
that.
You could start that.
Mhm.
Well, that's great. Well, I asked about that because one of your tips for people to get more involved in our community is to include volunteer and challenges in the tags that you follow, and then you say participate in the events that interest you most is scheduling them into your day.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe you were really structured about what you do every
No,
day.
I'm not. No, I don't structure WikiTree, but other people I know do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
I just my library is this is not a
background.
background.
That's your actual library.
I love that.
Yes.
Look at those shelves. Look how many on both sides.
Yes.
Wow.
This side is the genealogy library, and this side is science fiction.
Oh, sci-fi. You're
just
sci-fi.
sci-fi. Wow.
Excellent. Another thing we can talk about at Roots Tech.
Yeah, and one of the things that you Judy say in your interview is that we could offer to be speakers in local genealogy clubs or
Yes.
senior centers with you say with a few prepared presentations. Is that something you have done maybe with the
No, it isn't.
Red Hat
I'd like
Society?
to be able to do. And I think that if we could have a few prepared presentations, it would be easier for people to do that.
We do. An ambassadors project.
Oh, good.
We do.
Good. I didn't know that. There was a question about Pensacola. The answer was I lived there twice once for 10 years and once for 2 years. But I'm not from there. I'm from Long Beach, California.
You've seen a lot of the country then.
Yes, I was a Navy wife.
I was going to say, Pensacola was their Navy while did this.
Navy wife.
Navy wife and then a Navy contractor.
Uh-huh. Wow.
I spent most of my career with military contracts.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit now.
Well, Judy, thanks for your interview, and congrats on your member of the week.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for being with us. Of course, you can stay with us for the whole livecast, so we can check your connections, and you could comment or photographs of the month. And you could see the next profile makeover challenge that I'm going to share.
That's right. If people want to speak to Judy in person and who are coming to Roots Tech, Judy is going to be in our WikiTree booth, so you can say hi to Judy.
I'm going to say hi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, last week I invited you to join this special makeover challenge for this month, inspired by Valentine's Day. So I invite you all to share or to make over a profile of someone who had maybe a super interesting love story, or maybe you have a photo that inspires you to create a beautified profile. So I want to share something that is not finished, but it's a makeover made by me. So I'm using this as an example. This was a makeover. I usually, or I have mentioned before, this person is one of my favorite ancestors, Florencio Blanco Gana. He was the son of the first president of Chile, who is my fourth great grandfather. And Florencio had a life of, I don't know if you use the term socialité.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was rich. He didn't have a profession, but he was a diplomat and he was traveling. He had affairs. They say that he had an amazing beauty that that made women fall in love with him. I don't know if you see him so handsome.
Historical hottie.
Well, for 1850, maybe he was well, they said he had some elegant manners. Oh, well, oh, sorry. And I always mention this case because he married a Russian princess, Princess Olga Trubetskoy, and they met in the court of Napoleon III. See, Florencio's father was friends with Napoleon III. So they met because Olga's sister was married to one of the children or brothers of Napoleon III. I don't remember. So they met in France when Florencio was a diplomat. Well, the biography is in Spanish, but I used to have a little biography, only facts about his life, and his story, his love story, is so interesting, and there are even books written about it. So it has taken me a while to summarize all the story, but the interesting thing is that, well, they married, and this is Olga and Florencio when they got married. Olga's father was an edecán for Alexander I, the emperor of Russia. And when they got married, Olga was a widow, and she had two children, and the children were adults, like 20 years or so. And they started to tell her things about Florencio wanting to spend her little fortune, but it turned out that Florencio was richer than Olga. But Olga spent Florencio's fortune too, so they had a lot of tensions about money, and because they were conspiring against him. They were in the press in France, they were in the press in Russia, and in Chile. They came here, and of course the press was there to take photographs. And well, there is so much more to develop about this biography, but I wanted to show you something about this interesting story that someday I will put in English so you can know the story. Well, this is the love story that I chose for this month. So, as an inspiration for you, maybe you could pick some of your love stories in your family.
Very
So,
nice.
that was it.
So that whole biography is all in Spanish, right? And there's no English translation.
Not yet, because
Not
it's a work in progress.
No problem. But that's
Yes.
that's good practice. I'm learning Spanish with Duolingo, so that'll be good practice for me to try and read that and understand it.
Oh, I'll share the link then.
But yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Holly's right. Google Translate can do, or you can just right click on the page, and most browsers have an auto translate. So that works mostly. Now, have you guys found genealogy, any specific genealogy terms that get mistranslated?
I use AI mostly versus the
Yeah, me too.
translate, and I find AI does a better job.
That would make sense.
But I can say from I know a little Italian and a little German. I mean, very little Italian. And I can tell that the translation it's off. I don't know where though, because I'm not a native speaker.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm told quite often.
Well, I used a lot of AI for this profile because, as I told you, this biography is in many books. So I took photographs of the books.
Yeah.
And I uploaded them. I transcribed them, and then asked the AI to summarize.
It's just like that, right?
Yes. So, yeah, very quick. And did you notice that we were part of a AI experiment on GTG?
Yes, the roundup was. Yeah, I noticed that like this morning, but I didn't read it.
Yes, I'll share the link. Well, Peter Roberts.
Yes.
Peter Roberts said that when he got the email about the WikiTree email that we get every day or weekly, he saw something about the last Saturday roundup, and he copied the URL of the video. He put it on Gemini AI, and he asked for a summary of the video.
Oh,
And it's really interesting.
And
So
Gemini
I'll
is
share-
Google's AI.
Yeah.
So I used to call it BARD.
Here's the link if you want to.
Yeah, pretty
know
fascinating
more.
how quick as well these things happen.
And very, very precise, because it uses the transcription of the video on YouTube.
Which
Yes,
YouTube
and
does
then it
automatically.
summarizes. Yes. And Peter made questions to the AI, and it responded. So it's another example of how we can use this for genealogy.
Very cool.
So there, I left the link if you want to
Thank
read
you.
that.
And I do want to point out, I was going to mention something similar, and this is very important. If you do use AI summary, you do miss all the witty conversation and the implied jokes,
Of course.
and the things that are like you can only get watching live.
Yeah, that's assuming they like our witty conversation, or that maybe we're not as witty as we think we are. I don't know.
You don't know. I wonder how long it'll take to summarize the Doctor Who episode. I'm still.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
No, of course.
Well, there's 49 people who still think we're witty enough to hang in with.
That's true.
Oh,
We're just beginning.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Vicki. Sandy, do you want to do the question of the week?
Yeah, this is fascinating to me, and I'm going to ask everybody that's in the studio and chatting a question about this. Let me share my screen real quick. And the question of the week is: do you have any athletes in your family? Now, define athletes.
That's right.
For me. Are we talking professional? Are we talking college, semi-pro? Are we talking about the time that I attempted to join the track club in high school? What do you all think? Define athletes.
Well, I've got a very low bar. An athlete is someone who doesn't trip over their own feet. I peaked in grade 8 when I was the third fastest runner in grade 8, and so I was chosen to be part of the relay team.
Ooh, that's tough.
And I was the third fastest boy, so that was my peak. But I got to say, all three of our kids played basketball for the local rep team, and they were all much more coordinated than I was, and it was fun to go out and cheer for them, because I was never on a team that was worth cheering for. So, my athletes in my family are my children.
Me either. I was the mom who kept going to the practices, taking the kid to the practice, and thinking and go to. My kid plays golf. It is the longest, hottest spectator sport I know. So when he decided in college he was going to just do it for fun, I was kind of like sad, but kind of not.
Okay.
So I can imagine. And so we do. So we have a couple of run 8 marathons. I mean, that's amazing. 12 half and multiple 12K. I am telling you, Dee, that is amazing to do 8 marathons alone. So. And yeah, actually I was. I'm not going to lie. I was, and brought the oranges. Oranges were real big in basketball too.
Oh, yeah.
Bring oranges. So, yeah, gee, that's really impressive. And then a couple, my grandfather in his early career was a sports scene call journalist. So there's interesting what constitutes athletes. I am not. I'll just put that out. I am not. And I, this is a good point. I only run if someone's chasing me. That's a really good point. Now, you guys really came out this week, and I want to highlight a few. I wish I could highlight every single one. I want to highlight a few, but there's one in particular towards the end that I want to highlight that is genius as far as researching. And that's what kind of got me very, very interested in it. And I want to also point out, M. Ross mentions the England badminton team. So in the US, badminton is more something we do at picnics and family reunions, but in Europe, it is very, very big. And our own Irish John is on a badminton team that he practices every week. So that's when you hear badminton, don't think if you're American, it's just something they put in their backyard. They're taken very, very seriously. And Lisa, thank you, Lisa, part of the Roundup team. No professional athletes unless I go to distant French Canadian cousins, and that's okay because they all connect to us, right? Distant count. This is amazing. This is from Dan Dapper. I mean, this is an amazing photo. Meet gold medalist Foy Dapper. I mean, it's just from the 1936 Berlin Olympics. I can't even imagine in a relay team. So it's
Go relay teams.
It's just a fascinating, but it's sad. So he had this, height of being on the team and winning, and then he was shot down during World War II, and the plane and crew were never found. It just gives me kind of chills to think about this. If you look at this picture, and in the moment you had such joy and excitement to compete, and then he was.
Was he competing with Jesse Owens? Was he on the same team?
I don't see. I don't think that's Jesse.
It was in the picture, didn't it? Left to right.
One on the left. I'm not. Oh, yes, it is Jesse Owens. You're right. You're right.
So he's the third one in.
Jesse's should be the first one. Yeah. And then the shorter one is Dan's ancestor. Just amazing.
Wow.
So I love the pictures. I love, this is a different one. I love the pictures. This is Weldon Draper. And then Frank Price Draper as well. So he played for the U.S. Services in basketball tournaments held in London, and his team won. He said hands down. And then he was part of D-Day. And for those of you, Bedford, Virginia is not part of Appalachia. It's literally right on the line, but a very, very, I think almost everybody on the East Coast would recognize the Bedford Boys. There's great books about them as well. So he was part of the Bedford Boys that ended up losing their life. I get chills now just thinking about it, because Dan and I also connect. We're cousins, sort of, kind of, So whenever I hear from anybody and see a picture of the Bedford Boys, it just kind of kills me as a mom. For thinking about it. So awesome pictures, Dan. Thank you so much. This was really, really cool too. So this comes from Alexis Nelson, and my first cousin once removed, Lynn Wilbert St. John, excelled in sports and became a football, basketball, and baseball coach, athletic director at Ohio State, and the arena is named after.
Wow.
So that is really, really, really cool.
That's very cool.
And I will say that I have a distant cousin that it was a while ago the sports director for Marshall University, and I kept in contact with him a lot until my kid decided no golf. So it's always good to have contacts. But I like this too, because as you research along with WikiTree, Joko just learned that she is a professional goalkeeper. Second cousin once removed for the Dutch national football team. But it's kind of interesting as you go through. Let me scroll down to Verily. Also knows a semi-pro baseball player in Canada. Isn't this a lovely picture, Ian? This is her father.
Yeah,
was an American football running back for the Cleveland Heights High School Tiger team for 3 years. It's such I love this picture. He's so handsome, so cute. And then she and her sister were both on the American baseball softball team. She was the pitcher, and I played first base. First base is not not a fun one to play either.
Mhm.
And then she said that she also forgot her to mention her paternal grandfather for amateur sports. And then Gail gave a brief bit of levity with this that I think we can all appreciate.
Mhm.
That she's the greatest athlete ever, clutching her computer. Think of a fire or something like that. I leaped tall buildings in single bound to work here on WikiTree. And that was cute. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead, guys. I know that there's a lot of good ones. Please grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, however it is, and come look at each and every one of these. They all have stories, and their stories are amazing. I love this picture. How many of you saw League of Their Own?
Wow.
This is similar
Oh,
to
yes,
this as
yes.
well.
I
A
remember.
picture for the Springfield Sallies and Fort Wayne Daisies. This is such a cool picture. This is history. And this is kind of what WikiTree allows us to do, is not only put it on their biography, but on G2G, share it with the world.
Mhm.
So we can kind of see these people and they're not forgotten. I love this. And this is from Lucas. And yes, I need to drastically add to her profile. So Lucas, we'll give you about, 4 or 5 hours to do that and pick that up. I'm just going to scroll a little bit further for the pictures. This is fantastic. Not only was we've got Hoagie Carmichael,
Oh,
and for those of you that any Green Bay Packer fans out there, I know my husband was a big one. He's not a sports fan, Rod isn't, but look what he came up with. And it's just fascinating that he's working on this profile, and then also on George Albert Walters. Okay, let me get to the one that I really want to talk about. And again, thank you, everybody. I want to mention 2 on this page. So Helena mentions that she has 2, but they're still living. And I want to mention that they don't have profiles on WikiTree because they're still living.
mhm.
And they have not given permission. So keep that in mind. If you have a living and a notable, we're going to add the word notable in. You do need a project to kind of join with you for that living notable. But I like that she still tells us who they are. But they are living, so that's why she did not link them or have pictures of them. And this is the one I really want to highlight. So this comes from Oliver from the Germany Project.
Mm.
And I know Oliver. I love Oliver. He's fantastic help whenever I need something. He always kind of digs something up kind of in the way of Germany over to the Midwest for me. But this is a 6th cousin 7 times removed. So if you're researching, you're like, okay, I don't know much about this person, but I'm here, right? And I'm going to add his profile. He was the first German-born player in Major League Baseball in the United States. And he stumbled on him, as most of us do, right? So the reason why I wanted to point this out, not only does Oliver do fantastic profiles, he does a really, really great job. And this is also where I also bug the Germany Project a lot to make sure, and the Canada, to get the correct location. Was research notes with this. So he says that he was born on July 20th, 1849. So I was just kind of looking at what he wrote, and he has documentation of the birth. He's got the immigration. He also gives the stats, and baseball is nothing, well, almost all sports, but baseball in particular is math.
Yes.
It's math. So I love that he gave the stats as well and gave the teams. I mean, look at this. We're talking 1869, for a team. So that was really cool. So I'm still kind of just looking at this. And in our project in Appalachia, we talk a lot about crafts in our Discord. And I thought fancy work. And then look, the crochet work, embroidery, music teacher, stove molder is what it was. So these are things in census that I have not come across a lot. I've never seen crochet work. Okay, that was interesting, but I'm still going to come down. This isn't why I'm showing you this. Here's his tombstone, and it says 1856. Now, if we just do, this is a 6th cousin, sometimes removed, I think he said. So we're not invested as much in this one, maybe as like our grandparents, but Oliver was. So he found the date of his birth based on the immigration, the ship. And so this person was alive in 1849 because he was on a ship.
Yeah.
between that. So the tombstone has 1856. And this is another big conversation that we constantly have in our project. You don't always trust the tombstone dates. And I will say this again, if my kid has to tell the date of my birth, he will not know it. He will just it's not important.
Good point.
So this is why I wanted to showcase, even though this is a really great profile and it has tons of documentation on the baseball stats and the person himself, we have discrepancies on the birth before he even came here. And the research notes were really great because it says his death erroneously gives the birth location as Paterson, New Jersey. He was born in Germany. He had a ship, right? He's on a boat. So this is kind of where his birth is well documented for the year of 1849. Still his grave gives his birth as 1846. And then Oliver's still searching, I assume. He was divorced in that writing. Baseball statistics are here. But I just thought this was really interesting because I think sometimes I'm just as guilty of, maybe trusting the tombstone a little too much. So great profile. I really was fascinated by an occupation, and I'm a huge baseball fan. So stats are important in baseball, and they change every time the person's up at bat. So the stats could change about 4 or 5 times an hour.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was just getting my screen ready.
And then I will mention real quick just the connection with February. So if you have any connection with February, birth, death, anything like that, post it up here. We have a few. Stuart, beloved mother, was born. And there's little Lila. And then Karen has her step-grandmother and a real character in the life of the party. I've always loved this picture. I've seen this picture many times. Karen and I share so many ancestors, the Cartwrights. And I just love, that's up on Zap. That's huge. And this is a lovely picture as well. And Doug, we were talking about historical hotties, right? Let's see. We have a mustache here.
Part of that conversation.
We have a mustache. So
I wonder what is AI going to say about this hotties conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Peter's going to have to tell us. It's but we did also talk about this is Chile's hottest day of the year.
Yes.
So there's a good tie in here.
That's right.
And then Kathy, her uncle, who was born in Vienna, Austria. And for those of you that know anything about Kathy has been researching this line a lot, her Vienna line so much. And he was 5 years old when he arrived with his parents and has many patents that she didn't know about, which is also another place to go research. Just our normal places sometimes aren't the only place. And before I turn it over to Greg, the 12 months of February, homes. So whatever homes means to you, post it up here on G2G. And it would be great to see it on profiles. And we have one. It's so cute.
Oh, look at that.
This is from Sue White. My brother and I had to wash down the outside of her home after we decided to paint the entryway. This was our first house. I lived there until the second year of high school. So my question now to everybody is, how many of you have used box of Crayolas, markers, Sharpies, anything like that to decorate your room? That. I thought it was natural as a 5-year-old. I thought that was my divine right.
Yes. Oh.
So, and I love how she's enjoying it.
Yes.
She's not taking
Look
it
at
as
that.
punishment. So that was funny. But definitely everybody come up here and share what your version of home means to you this particular month. And as Vicki said, this is the month of love. So love your home.
Super. Thanks for that, Sandy. That was great. It was great. So I didn't mean to take over I was just going to be
you're fine.
prepared instead. And so all of a sudden it took over. But this week's Connection Checkers was all about the Super Bowl performers, because yes, this is Super Bowl weekend and the big game is tomorrow. But as I was talking to my co-hosts beforehand, my wife and I are not huge sports fans, and we use the Super Bowl weekend as an excuse to buy chips and stuff like that, and eat as if we were at a Super Bowl party. But I don't even know who the two teams are playing this weekend. Who are they? I shouldn't have admitted that. But.
They are.
I didn't even know there was the Super Bowl this
Okay,
weekend.
so I'm not alone.
I'm not the best person to answer that.
So anyway, someone will know who's playing. But anyway,
Was it Kansas City and the Eagles?
Yes.
Philadelphia Eagles.
There we go.
And who is playing?
Thanks for sticking around, Judy. You keep it.
Who is playing at the halftime show?
Yeah, that's right. So that's what the profiles are.
But
not
who is
about
playing this weekend?
What's that?
Do you
No
know?
idea. No idea.
Who's playing this weekend? Is it a surprise?
No.
There
Oh.
it is.
Oh,
Kendrick
Yeah,
Lamar.
Eminem,
Lamar.
Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Dr. Dre.
There it is.
So it's a group of entertainers.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. So the it's not the athletes, but it's the performers, of course, that are this week's, and there's a long list of them here that are being profiled. And if we look at, wait a second, jump to my categories. So for me, the top two that I'm closest to are Shania Twain and Dan Aykroyd, both with Canadian roots, French Canadian roots, in fact. What about you folks? Who are you closest to?
I have to check.
I'm 12 from Chris Stapleton.
12.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is interesting. He's through my husband's very hardcore Virginia Appalachian.
Mhm.
I'm 16 from Chris Stapleton.
Okay.
And I'm 24 from Mick Jagger.
Oh, that's
Mick
cool.
Jagger, Sir Mick Jagger. Very cool. And to see, if we click on the show all, if you have the WikiTree browser extension installed and turn this feature on, you get this nice button to show how everyone's interconnected to each other. And you get this lovely chart, which I think is just the coolest thing. And I don't know if, I just noticed this morning, and I'm sure it's been in this chart all this time, the cells at the bottom of each column or at the end of each row, depending on which direction you're looking at, is the average connection. So, and it's organized so that the closest on average is Garth Brooks to everyone.
Oh, interesting.
His average distance is 22.33 is a distance from other people. So he's closer on average to Chris Stapleton, but farther on average from Whitney Houston.
That's interesting.
Isn't that
Mine is 21.83.
Oh, okay. So my average distance to everyone is 23.25. So you're on average closer by 2 degrees than I
knew you know the answer to that. Okay.
And
cool.
my guess is
Thanks for
that
explaining that.
Vicky's average is probably further than most of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
So that's very cool, I thought.
That is very cool.
Yeah. And did you also notice the color gradients? So it goes from green for the closer to blue, more distant ones. So you can even just see the color clustering highlights how close or far you are. So this is very, very well done. I really love this feature. And I'm wondering how long the average has been there. Has it been there all this time and I'm just noticing it now? Or is it a relatively new feature?
I don't think WBE updated this week. Maybe that's a clue. I don't know.
That's a question for Ian. Maybe Murray knows the answer to this as well. Murray in the chat, if you can answer. Is it just that I've been unobservant before? Anyways, let's go and check them. So I've rearranged them, not the order in which they are listed here in the G2G post, but I've rearranged them in order of appearance. in terms of, so the first one of the profiles back in Super Bowl 6 was Ella Fitzgerald, classic. Love Ella. Born in Warwick, Virginia. Now, does that make her Appalachian?
No.
No. Okay.
Virginia's tricky.
Virginia's tricky, right? Yeah, I know that some of the states, you can't just blanket a state and say it's all Appalachia. So, so I was just wondering. There we go.
Thanks for asking, though.
No problem. I'm sure we've got at least Chris Stapleton is Appalachian, right?
I don't believe he is.
No.
Actually, I think that's true. Kentucky's tricky too, but I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, at least they're Appalachia adjacent, right?
That's true. Yes, that is.
we can say that, right? Ella Fitzgerald, legendary jazz singer, of course. Prolific career spanned 60 years. She received numerous awards, 13 Grammy Awards, recognized with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1992. She was born on the 25th of April in 1917, Warwick, Virginia, United States. Her father worked on a grain ship in Newport News, Virginia, and she was living with her parents at the age of 2, according to the census. When she was 12, her mother left her father and married a Portuguese immigrant from Cape Verde. They were living in Yonkers. She has a half-sister, Frances. Then her mother died, and she went to a reformatory, lived there, and then moved to New York City. She was she won a singing contest at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, the very famous Apollo Theater, and that's what sort of she went from there. Hired with the Chick Webb's band, recorded with him, then went on to solo careers, and then lots of achievements and performances since then. Married in St. Louis, Missouri in 1941, and then later married to Ray Brown in 1947. And she passed away, of course, in 1996. She did adopt her half-sister's child. Ray Brown is her adopted son. There we go. So very lovely. Moving on, Chubby Checker, born Chubby Evans. Actually born Chubby, it was a nickname that was given. And it's interesting, it doesn't, his actual name, according to, was Ernest Evans. Now, because he is, I guess he's a living person, so I cannot edit his profile. But according to his WikiTree profile, his name was Ernest Evans, born in South Carolina. So it really, his first name should say Ernest, and then Chubby should be in the nickname field, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if that, though of course everyone knows him as Chubby Checker. So I understand why he would have put it in that way, but probably technically should be changed, I guess, but I don't have access to that. So someone from the Notable Society or the U.S. Black Heritage Project, I guess, is the one that manages this. Also, anyone who is from the Notables Project or the U.S. Black Heritage, one thing I would suggest is see how there's a couple images that are not showing up here. And I right-clicked on one of them, and here you can see it. And if I zoom in, you can sort of see him talking to someone. Mm-hmm. But the image is privacy protected, and so only the thumbnail is open. So because if you embed an image on a page in a profile, it requires more than just the thumbnail. And if it's privacy protected, you get this little no image indicator. So
he's living, right?
He's living.
That's why, yeah. That's why.
Yeah. Well, if this image is publicly available,
yeah, and
it's placed in a place where it,
like a space.
I think it's because this image is probably attached directly to his profile, and it's But if it was added on a free space page,
then it would be perfect.
Then it'd be okay. So if there's a way of putting these profile pictures on a free space page, and then it doesn't get attached to the privacy protection sort of thing.
Because the photos also help us with ranking, I think, right?
Exactly. Yes, okay. They do. Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole thing in a most recent version of that. Well, a couple versions of Ask Alesh. Alesh explained how there's rankings for every profile has its own rankings, And the more things you add to a profile, the more connections in terms of parents, siblings, children, the more sources you add, the more images you add, the more categories you add. All of those increase the rankings, which makes it more likely that those profiles will show up in a Google search or as cousin bait. So those are all things to consider when you're working on a profile.
That's good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, those are all good things to know. But anyways, very interesting profile here. Goes through a lot of details about his life, and he was given the nickname by his boss at the produce market. Like, who knew that's where he got his nickname from?
I was thinking baby chubby cheeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was Dick Clark's wife who gave him the last name of Checker as opposed to Evans. So from boss to Dick Clark's wife, that's how he got his the name that he's most commonly known as, because he was neither a chubby nor a checker when he was born. I mean, he might have been chubby, but he wasn't called a chubby. Anyways, interesting what AI will do to that part of the conversation. So he performed at Super Bowl 22, and then at Super Bowl 25, Whitney Houston performed. Whitney Houston, now I did not know her nickname was Nippy, so that's an interesting fact there. Born on the 9th of August, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, passed away sadly way too young at the age of 48 on the 11th of February, 2012. Of course, American singer, actress, powerful voice, soulful vocal voice. The only artist to have had 7 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. That's a pretty impressive stat. Born to John Russell Houston Jr. and Emily Sissy Drinkard. Started singing as a young child in church. That's a common theme. Lots of these singers started singing in church, some which are kind of surprising, which I'll point that out later on. She was signed at the age of 19, immediately chart-topping. Of course, her first acting role was in the movie The Bodyguard. And that had Kevin
Costner.
Wasn't it? Yeah, in it as well. And her single, I Will Always Love You, of course, became the best song. It became the best-selling physical single by a woman. So I think what it must mean by that is like actual records, right? As opposed to a digital single, right?
It made Dolly a ton of money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She married Bobby Brown, and that was...
She was also on Star Trek.
She was on Star Trek?
Yes.
Who was she on Star Trek? Who was she?
She was a hostess at one of the resorts.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool. Trivia.
That is very cool. Now, how come that's not in the bio here? We got to add that to the bio. Chris Ferriolo, I'm surprised he hasn't added that already. That's very cool, Judy. I did not know that.
I'm
we
a Star
need a
Trek
section
fan.
called trivia. You need to add that trivia section on there.
Yeah,
that
is
be
cool. Of course, unfortunately, she did. It was a very unfortunate death accident. But interesting, under cousins, Dionne Warwick is a cousin. And so I thought, well, I got to check that out. And there, she and Dionne are first cousins. Now, I think I knew that at one point, but of course I forgot. But Dionne Warwick, of course, another powerhouse singer. And so I just checked that out. And here is their common grandfather. They share, of course, a set of grandparents. Nicholas Drinkard, or Nicholas Arthur Drinkard, and Delia May McCaskill are their common grandparents. So if you look at their descendants, you see, so their second child, Arthur, is the father of Dionne, and their youngest daughter, Emily, is the mother of Whitney. So her mother and Dionne's father were brother and sister. Another sibling of their common parents was a brother named Handsome drinkers. So that means that both Whitney Houston and Dionne Warwick had an Uncle Handsome.
Are we talking historical hotties again? No.
That's
I
there's
thought
no
the same.
picture of Uncle Handsome, so we don't know how handsome Uncle Handsome really was. But inquiring minds need to know. So if there is a picture of Uncle Handsome, someone needs to dig it up. Don't dig up him. You don't want a picture of what he looks like now, because he has been deceased for 21 years, and so or no, he's been yeah, we don't want that. But anyways, I just thought that was a very interesting another rabbit hole to go down. Garth Brooks, moving on. Garth Brooks performed Super Bowl 27, and he is a distant cousin. American country singer, songwriter, born in '62 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He married his college sweetheart. Isn't that nice? In '86. Children. And then he married again Trisha Yearwood in 2005, who was also a notable country singer. The only artist in music history, interesting, to have released 9 albums that were certified diamond by the recording industry. And he beat the Beatles, who only have 6 diamond albums.
Wow.
That is wild that he has sold more than the Beatles. Wow. Then we have our Canadian content. Part of our Canadian content for this week is Dan Aykroyd.
Can you tell us what the CMOONT?
Okay, so I think that he's a member of the Order of Canada, and he's also from the Order of Ontario. Ontario also has Ontario is the province that I live in and that he lived in for a while. And it also has its own order of.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
It looks funny. Oont. What's an oont?
Not his name. It's not his.
It's not his name.
It's an honorary.
So he's a member of the Order of Canada, and he's a member of the Order of Ontario. And notable, managed by the Canadian Project. So he's a Canadian-American actor. I believe he now actually has American citizenship, but he was Canadian, born in Ottawa on Canada Day. I mean, what more? How you can't get much more Canadian than born on Canada Day. July 1st is Canada Day. 1952, son of Samuel Cuthbert Peter Hugh Aykroyd and Lorraine Alain Marie Goujon. In 1952, of course, famous for Saturday Night Live and his skits there. The Blues Brothers, Ghostbusters, and the Coneheads.
So many choices. I can't even tell you what my favorite is.
I know. So the Ghostbusters is the first time that I saw him, but I mean, appreciate him in all those things. Interesting trivia here. He was engaged to Carrie Fisher.
Oh,
so he could have been Mr. Princess Leia, at one, but but the engagement was short-lived, sadly. So he never did join the force in that way. But he did marry fellow actor Donna Dixon. Though they're separated, they're still legally married, I guess, according to this. He did become an American citizen, but he still we still consider him Canadian, and he maintains his tie to Canada and has a residence somewhere here in Ontario. So anyways, interesting. It talks about his career here in the bio, and I recommend people read that. He met John Belushi, of course, when he joined Saturday Night Live, and that developed the Blues Brothers and lots of things. Also the House of Blues, the chain of music venues. And in Kingston, Ontario, which is a, big city here in Ontario, where there's a university and some colleges, there's a ghetto house cafe that he owns. So very cool. Interesting. Also in the 31st Super Bowl was the Dusty Hill performed. Joseph Michael Hill, another American musician, singer, and songwriter. You will know him, especially if you see his photo, you'll recognize him as a member of ZZ Top. With that long beard. Born in 19th of May, 1949 in Dallas, Texas. Talented singer, devotee of the blues. So there was obviously a blues theme going on for Super Bowl 31. ZZ Top broke through in their third album, Tres Hombres, became known worldwide. And his last concert, this is sad, his last concert was on the 18th of July, 2021 at the Iroquois Amphitheater in Louisville, Kentucky. And he passed away just 10 days later on the 28th of July. So anyone who went to that concert, to see him perform for the final time, that would have been a very special time. Yeah. So great performer. Love that picture there.
I do too.
Some more Canadian content. Shania Twain. And where she is, Super Bowl 37, she performed, and she is my closest connection. Now, both she and Dan Aykroyd are 16 degrees apart, but she is closer as my 7th cousin, whereas he was my 8th cousin. So 7th cousin once removed. And so she has a great story. And there has actually been a special, at least one TV special about her life. But she was born in Windsor, Ontario. Her parents separated shortly, and then her mother remarried. And her stepfather is an Ojibwe man, Jerry Twain, who adopted her. Her name wasn't originally Shania. She was born Eileen Regina Edwards. Wow. Which is interesting. So, but she was adopted by her stepfather, and has become legally registered as a status Indian, member of the Temagami First Nation, and they live near the Matagami Reserve in Timmins. Then they moved to Sudbury, and she started writing songs at age of 10.
Oh,
wow. Like she's like a young Amadeus, and that like a prolific and an early start. Did lots of Canadian stuff, which early on, like really young, Opry North, the Mercy Brothers show. She was 13 years old when she appeared on the Tommy Hunter show. Now, that'll mean nothing to anyone who's not from Canada, I'm pretty sure. But the Tommy Hunter show was a music variety show that was on every Friday night at 8 o'clock. And anyone who got CBC, I mean, it was massively popular and watched by lots of people. So I remember growing up and always watching the Tommy Hunter show. So
was it like a Star Search, or was it like
no, it wasn't a competition. It was just the host, Tommy Hunter, was a very friendly guy, played guitar, and was a great storyteller. And he just invited other musicians and actors sometimes to join him, and they would perform and they would talk, and sometimes there'd be skits. But he would choose, it was mostly Canadians, like famous ones like Anne Murray and others, but also he would also invite, up and comers, people who were just sort of starting out. So he would help them on, and here's some new talent. I think you'll really like her, and you'll hear a lot from her in the future. But he's often does things like that, and so it was. It was really down home and friendly, and it was great. Oh, look at Murray. Murray has a connection. He's a cousin.
There we go.
So there we go. I'm not just making it up. But anyways, it was very cool.
So was Shania popular in Canada before being globally?
Yeah, she was popular in Canada, but of course, once she goes global, then you realize, now the whole world knows about this person. So yeah. So one of the I wanted to show you, because it shows that we are 7th cousins once removed, and if you click on more, you see there's actually lots of different ancestors we share. So in the Ancestor Webs app, which is one of the apps in the Tree Apps section, if you use that, you can use that to see the common ancestors between two people. So I have preloaded it with the tree showing how the two of us are related. So there, let me just zoom in a little bit there. Okay, so there's Shania down here, and there's me down here. And so in the profile, it says that we are related because my seventh great grandmother and father, Marguerite Gay and Francois Bissonnette, that's what we have in common. They're my seventh great grandparents and her sixth great grandparents. And you can see they are in this chart right here. There's Francois Bissonnette and Marguerite Gay. But those are only 2 of the 9 common ancestors we have at that level. Mm-hmm. So at 10 generations back, we share that couple, but also 3 other couples, and then 1 person here who had 2 different husbands. And so we're descended from one child from one husband and another child from another husband. So you can see the little road maps, or little streets connecting. Mm-hmm. And to make the chart, I've just chosen initials for each of the persons, but if you click on them, you get so for the Francois Bissonnette, if you follow this line, their son, Jean-Baptiste Bissonnette, is the direct ancestor of Shania, whereas if I go this way, their other son, Antoine Bissonnette, is my direct ancestor, but you can see there's multiple ones. And what's really cool is then if you go back in time, if I go back to 11 generations, instead of 9 common ancestors, we have 35. And then if I go another one, 12 generations, there's 94. Like, it just is, that's why I call it the webs, ancestor webs, because it's like a web. All the different people that are connecting us. So.
And you're being modest. You created this.
I did program this one, yes.
Yeah. This isn't the one that you created initially for Italy. Was it?
This is the precursor to this version. Was the very first app I ever created for WikiTree.
Oh,
I called it the Spiderwebs app. And then some people were creeped out by that name, so I changed it to Spiderwebs. And I've changed the interface a bit and whatnot. But anyways, I just thought I'd show that off so you can see that sometimes when it says you're connected by one set of ancestors, sometimes that's only a little fraction of the story. There's a lot more connections. And anyways, moving on. Paul McCartney, next notable, and he is, let me look at my notes here, Super Bowl 39. Sir Paul McCartney, I think probably almost everyone is familiar with him. Born in Liverpool, of course, in the 42. His father missed his birth, wasn't there when he was born because he was working as a volunteer firefighter. Because look at the date, 1942, World War II. He was a firefighter in Liverpool, so would have been busy there. Singer, songwriter, composer, multiple instruments. Considered one of the most successful composers and performers of all time. His song, Yesterday, over 2,200 artists have covered that song. That's more than any other copyrighted song in history. Pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
Isn't that? Yeah.
And I believe they didn't own their copyrights for a while, and he got it back.
Yes.
With Michael Jackson.
Yeah, with the Beatles, there was some issues with that.
So that is impressive.
Yeah. Next one is Mick Jagger. Born on the 26th of July, 1943, so he's a year younger than Sir Paul McCartney. And he performed the very next year in Super Bowl 40. His parents, Basil Fanshawe Jagger, and was a gymnast and a phys ed teacher. Nice.
Oh,
there.
An athlete.
Betsy would appreciate that. Yeah. I can tell you I was never ever considered to be a phys ed teacher. So that's in fact, as a teacher, if I had to supply teach for phys ed class, that was the worst gig ever. Kids, does someone know the rules to this game?
Ropes for everybody.
That's right. And his mother was a hairdresser born in Australia. And his grandfather was also a teacher. So there's cool. This is the surprise. His love of music started as a child singing in the church choir. Mick Jagger singing in the choir.
Wow.
That seems like a stretch, but okay.
It does seem like a stretch. That's kind of cool. I wonder. But The other cool thing is that he met Keith Richards, you know, who became his bandmate later on when they were both 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
They went to the same, I don't know, did it say they went to the same grammar school? I don't know, but they met each other back in age 7 and then they lost contact. And then they reunited 10 years later, became friends, loved rhythm and blues, lived with Brian Jones in Chelsea. And then, of course, the Rolling Stones happened. And there's probably a few other things that happened in between there, but there you go. But I thought that was a very cool, start to his life,
It is.
The profile is really well done and it documents the rest of his life, which I recommend you checking out if you like. And then we have Prince, who was in Super Bowl 41. So we're moving bit by bit. Born in Minneapolis, Minnesota on the 7th of June, 1958. Part of Black history. American singer, songwriter, musician, actor. Until 1993, when he changed from his stage name of Prince to the artist formerly known as Prince. But what's interesting is that his father was also a musician. He played in nightclubs after his workday, and he used the stage name of Prince, the father.
Oh,
So isn't that interesting? His mother was a nightclub singer, so he was immersed in music from the get-go. One thing I didn't realize is that he suffered from seizures as a child until he was 7 years old, and then I guess the seizures stopped. He played basketball and trained in classical ballet. So very talented, amazing musician.
Amazing. He's hands down my favorite Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah. Just incredible. And then all the awards he's won. Amazing guitar player. The soloist, guitar solos, legendary. And then interesting, they've linked to some of his top songs performances. But I mean, it's got so many, you couldn't link to all of them. But very, very nicely done profile here.
Now you mentioned something very important too, because if you listed every song, for example, that he wrote or performed, it would take away from the profile. There's other places, that you could link to for that. So that's a good point you made.
Yeah. And there's one, and I think it might be Tom Petty here, where they actually have a free space page, and they got the link, say free space page for the exhaustive list.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a perfect use for a free space page. So the profile can be somewhat, like, it doesn't have to be super succinct, right? It can be tell the full story. But you're right. If you start enumerating every single thing,
especially for some of these individuals, they're just, like you said, for tonight, prolific.
Tom Petty, distant cousin again, born in 1950 in Gainesville, Florida, passed away also in October 2017 at the age of 66, Santa Monica. And he, let me just check here, was Super Bowl, Tom Petty, 42. He quit high school at 17, joined a Southern rock group, Mud Crutch, interesting name, and then featured 2 musicians I collaborated with, of course, famous for being part of the Heartbreakers, and then Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, name of the band. And there's a nice picture of him with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Did some solo work as well. There's him more recently. Passed away sadly in 2017, cardiac arrest. He's found unconscious and full cardiac arrest in Malibu. Passed away at 66. Also a member of the Traveling Wilburys. I like that. Their stuff too. Yeah, great stuff. And I'm trying to think of I thought
a lot of connections, because the Traveling Wilburys had some Stones. Didn't it have one of the members of the Rolling Stones?
Maybe.
I think. And then you mentioned, or maybe I'm thinking, but then Prince was friends with ZZ Top, and we had
all these connections.
And so there's a lot of connections here.
That is neat. Yeah. Chris Stapleton, This is the last one, and he, where's Stapleton? Super Bowl 57 is his connection, because I'm guessing he was a second of 3 children. His father was a coal miner, which is why I thought that he might be Appalachian. He was born 15th of April in Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington, Kentucky, is that Appalachia?
No.
No.
But he does have a farm in Appalachia, so maybe we should put something in there since he doesn't. What do we say? Birth, married,
Right, he doesn't have the Appalachian sticker on him, so
Yeah,
I should have known. Yes.
So maybe we should slap one on since he doesn't have a farm here.
So he's a songwriter, and credited with writing many hit songs. There's just a few of them listed there, and look at all the artists that have covered those: Charles Kelly, Tim McGraw, Luke
He
Bryan.
was a writer before he became the singer and a demo singer. So those songs that what Greg's showing now, that covered, a lot of them were done before he even started singing.
So he is a singer himself as well.
Just won some Grammys, I think, as well.
Neat.
Paul McCartney just won a Grammy
for one of his songs.
It was kind of an AI song, I think.
Oh wow!
Fact check me on that. But him and another Beatle brought back John Lennon to life.
Oh, neat. So there's a nice table here for nominations and awards once he's won at the top. So very cool. And yeah. So I'm not sure which profile it was, but there was a profile that linked to 2 different free space pages of things.
But no, I'm glad you mentioned it, because this right here would be fantastic to put on a free space page.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to do the table, just link directly. Most time Wikipedia has a separate page, because you want the biography of the person. They're more than their words. Than their song.
Nice.
There we go. Thank you, Tom. I thought I might have got that wrong. So Tom Petty, Roy Orbison.
There we go.
Roy Orbison. Bob Dylan.
Wow. That's a powerhouse, isn't it?
That is.
Amazing. Okay. So are we ready for the wrap up, or have I shortchanged either of you for a segment that you were supposed to do?
No, but I got a lot of earworms. Do you guys have a lot of earworms going on after this?
There's a lot, yeah. So what's happening this week? Lots of things, of course, are coming up. We are on February 8th right now. Of course, we're doing the roundup. There's also the sourcing sprint, the weekend chats going on. And we have the regular question of the weeks, 52 Ancestors, German Stammtisch coming up. New member Q&A is happening on the 13th, which would be Thursday, I believe.
Thursday.
And of course, and then we have a Friday, WikiTree Friday date night.
Perfect timing, right? Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day, Friday date night. Of course. What else would you be doing?
I know we made this the month of love, so we got to keep
that's
that
right. Yeah. And you know what? That's early enough. That's only 4 in the afternoon. So you could go dating with WikiTree for an hour and then go dating with your sweetie afterwards.
Real dating.
There we go. And the social media, thanks to Lisa for posting this. Let's see, here we are. We're going to have a question of the week, which we don't know yet. It's always a surprise. The one name study for Tuesday is Blanton. Connection checkers will deal with the, will probably be related to the question of the week usually. One place studies will be Sway, Hampshire, England. Sway.
I like that.
Interesting. Then we have there's the new members Q&A via Zoom. Betsy, Murray, who's in our chat, will be there. Steve and
Hillary,
thank you. Yes. Project featured on Thursday is the Acadians. The Acadians might be the connection checkers this coming week.
Could be.
I've seen an email that suggested it might be, so that'd be very cool. Have some there. Then we have Friday date night, as always, of course, and then there's the Hall of Fame. Meet our members, and we're back. Remember, homes as the theme for photos, what we mentioned. And we always have the profile makeover and the celebrate our ancestors. So that's what's coming up. Thank you again, Judy, for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Any parting words, words of wisdom for us?
Oh, no. Just have fun.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent choice.
Thank you for joining us, Judy.
Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Sandy, for joining us as again. And we look forward to seeing you again. Not because one of us is sick, but we're always happy to have you join us.
See you in March in person.
We'll see you in March. Yes.
In person.
Yeah. Very, yeah,
Cool.
we're looking forward to it. And for those of you who are planning on going to Roots Tech, and I'm going to mention this again, but we have set a date and a time. So if you're going to be there in person, Friday morning at 10 a.m., we are taking a big group picture of all WikiTreeers who are there in front of the WikiTree booth. So mark that down in your calendars. If you're there in person, join us Friday morning at 10 a.m. for a group photo. And
Wow.
so that'll be fun. And then those who aren't there can take that photo and Photoshop themselves into the picture. Anyways, thanks again, Vicky, for joining me as always. And everyone who's joined us live and who are watching afterward the facts, have a great week, and we'll see you again next weekend.
Bye. Good weekend.
Bye.